Dear FAMER colleagues and friends, on behalf of the Qualitative Data Analysis Group, it is our pleasure, Dr. Ranta Mustafa and myself, Dr. Randa Reda, to present to you this topic, among others, about crafting research questions in qualitative studies. The objective of this presentation is to know the features of good research question and to understand through examples how to formulate a good research question.
What is the research question? To put into simple words, a research question is a question that a research project sets out to answer. Most research questions will lead to a project that aims to generate new insights, and the new insights are very important. Why a good research question is important for the qualitative studies? A good question can make researchers pause and see things in a different way, and can motivate them to learn more through discussions, internet searches, or literature review. This will allow them to identify and collect data that can be analyzed and interpreted, providing new insights. Also, it can allow the researchers to critically think. Thinking critically about everyday taken for granted assumptions or practice problems enables new, potentially transformative viewpoints to be researched and articulated. There are certain considerations that should be taken care of when developing a good research question. The categories of the good research questions include being relevant and focused, original, in alignment with the methods, and specific and clear. You may start with any one of these categories and revisit each one multiple times. In doing so, you may change your research question slightly or even completely. Please don't be upset if you go through many iterations. Time spent on these processes is always well invested. The features of a good research question will include the relevance, in which you have to focus on an important issue. You have to ask yourself, what will happen if this research is not done? Does it really matter? And in this aspect, you have to ask about the significance of the research questions for the different stakeholders. To do this, talk about your project idea in lay terms and observe people's reactions with an open mind. The good research question should be narrow, specific, and clear. You have to start with a general theme or idea for research that would develop later into a more specific question over time. The good question should be also original. It should generate new insights and does not duplicate previous researches. If you can find an existing research study or review article on your topic of interest that answers or even partially answers the question you are trying to define, then you may not need to do the study you had first suggested. But the good news is that your time can now be spent either extending that work or even finding a gap in the literature that you can address. Your good question should be aligned, ensuring that the research question and the methods of the data collection and data analysis are aligned, and this is known as rigor.
Now we come to some examples of how initial research questions are refined into appropriate ones. This is an example of an initial research question. It states, do more communication errors occur when sign-out is given by a junior trainee to a senior trainee, or vice versa? What is the feedback on this research question? This question may be better suited to a quantitative approach. It's not a qualitative approach, as a qualitative question has to focus on processes rather than outcomes. So how do we refine it? We could say, What are the challenges that clinicians face when receiving a sign out from a more experienced versus less experienced clinician? Another initial research question states, how do faculty respond to errors in clinical reasoning? The feedback on this research question would be, this question assumes the researchers know how faculty and everyone else understand errors in the same way. Some people may understand errors in a different way. So the refined research question would be, what do clinicians consider to be an error in clinical reasonings? And how do they characterize the error? The third example for the initial research broad question is, what are the characteristics of an effective handout? So this is a very broad question, and we have to focus on a particular setting, perspective, or type of the handout. Make sure that the study addresses a gap in the literature and finding out a gap also in the literature. So the refined research question would be, what makes an end of shift in patient handoff effective from the perspective of receiving clinician? So to decap this topic, the qualitative research questions are the core of the research process. They identify what you want to learn about or understand. Also, the questions start very broad, but may change or become more specific and focused. They are often finalized after the data collection and even after preliminary analysis begin. Always remain sensitive, adaptable, and in aligning to the other components of the study. Thank you very much for listening to this short presentation. I hope that we gave you a short idea or an information about the starting and the crafting of the research question.